In this video we're going to be looking over this Minolta Maxxum 7000 autofocus SLR. I believe this was the first of the autofocus SLRs that Minolta came up with back in the 1980s, and this is a fairly nice example of the 7000, and I thought what we'd do first is just look it over a little bit cosmetically. It's got the Minolta cap, there's a filter on the front. It's a Skylight 1B filter, and then we have the hood mounted in reverse. It's for the 35 to 70 millimeter Minolta lens, which is what this is, and we can put that on. It just snaps right on there like that. Front element looks pretty nice. The back, to bring that back. Rear element looks pretty nice, and focus is smooth, and this lens has a range of 35 to 70 millimeters here, but we can see that there's this macro switch that then allows it to go into this macro zone right here too, and it focuses pretty close, and it's pretty nice that way. So we'll back that out. Looking at the camera itself, the mount looks good, the focus screen looks good, the mirror looks good, and the lens mounts just by lining up the red dot and rotating it to the right. If we look on in the back, this camera, like most of these Maxxum 7000s, they have some of this whitening of the plastic, and you can see it on the battery holder here and on the front. That's just a real common thing that happened to these materials. I think there's ways of cleaning it off, but I'm just going to leave it. What we're going to do is put in some batteries in this holder. This is the Minolta BH70S holder, and this is the holder that's designed to hold 4 AAA batteries, and it's pretty clean. I see some slight evidence of battery leakage at some point in this one, but not very severe. Looks pretty good. So let's put some batteries in so we can try out the camera. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So there we go. Get those in there right. Snap that back into that position. Align it with the camera. And tighten the little screw. And if you really want to go overboard, you can take a quarter and really crank that shut, but you really don't need to do that. And then I have a roll of scrap film here. This is in a bulk load reusable cartridge, and it's coated for ISO 400, and that's going to be important when we look here in just a moment. Let's open up the camera and see. Looks pretty nice inside, and I'm going to turn it on here. So that would be what it would be doing when it's loading a new roll of film in. I'm going to open it up again. I'm going to push that down. We'll load our film here, pull the leader across, stick the leader to the far side of the take-up spool, just like that, and close it. Okay, it advanced a few frames so that we know it's now safely pulled out all the exposed film, and it's showing number 1. And while we're at this, I'm going to really highlight this display, because the displays on the top of most Maxxum 7000s show some bleeding dark material coming in from the corners, obscuring part of the display. And this one is just amazingly nice. I don't see any of that, so that's a really good thing. So that's a very positive thing, because that's not common. Now what we have is the mode. We have single, which is what we've done, where you just push the button once and the shutter goes off. You can set it over to, you have to really push that button down and hold it. Oh no, it's the drive button. I'm sorry. Continuous or self-timer. If we go over one more, and then what is going to happen, I'm going to set the camera over here, and we are going to then back this away here so we can see the whole camera. And as I push the shutter button, we're going to see this light start blinking, and then it's counting down the timer. We can hear the beeping sound. You should be able to see the shutter up and the blades inside the lens. Okay. Now I'm going to set that back to single shot. And now what we have here right now is it's set for M for manual, which means that you can use these two push buttons right here to adjust the shutter speed up on top there. See the 2000 going down all the way to 30 seconds and bulb. So let's leave that at about 30. And then there's these two buttons right here up and down that are then used to set the aperture. So there we got 8, 11, 22, and coming back down again. So what I'm going to do is set this to f22. I'm going to set this to a little bit longer shutter speed, a half a second. I'm going to try and get it so that we can see those blades operating inside the lens. See there how they come in and stop down. That's proving to me that the aperture blades are working properly in the lens. One thing I had mentioned earlier was to look at that cartridge that said it was coded for ISO 400. If I push the ISO button right here, we'll see that it shows that it's read the 400. Now if, as a photographer, you want to push your film or expose it differently, you certainly can set the ISO differently, but if it does have that coding on the canister, it will read it and bring that in. Also, here's for your exposure compensation. If you're in one of the other modes, let's go, here's aperture priority, where now all you set is the aperture and you're setting it here and the camera's picking a shutter speed for you. Or manual, and there's shutter speed. Now you're setting a shutter speed and the camera is picking an aperture for you. Or if you want the program mode, I think you can step through, or you can just push this button right there and it's program, and now the camera uses some computer to figure out what it wants, and it'll take pretty good pictures without you having to think about it. Now all this time I've had the focus set to manual because I didn't want the lens trying to hunt for things while we were looking at other things. But now I've set it to autofocus, and so now if I point the camera up here at my curtains that are, I suppose they're about 5 feet away, there we see the camera focused on a spot at about 5 feet away. There, 5 feet away, and it takes a picture. If I point it there real close, it'll go there. If I point it at the white ceiling where it can't really recognize anything, it goes all the way to infinity. So, and there it beeped when it was ready. You can shut that beep off if you don't like that. Sometimes it will also beep if your exposure settings are such that you're not going to be able to handhold the camera well enough. It gives that little warning. If you don't like that beeping ever, there's a position of the on-off switch where it doesn't do that. I think I've now demonstrated everything I wanted to show here, so we're going to just pop off the rest of the pictures that are in this. Okay, that's the end of the roll. to rewind on the 7000, there's a button. You push here and you pull this, and right now the camera is automatically, through motor drive, winding the film back into the canister. I heard it pull free, and it just keeps winding for a little bit until now it's showing 0 and a flashing word film. So it's now safe to open up the camera and take out the film. And if this were film that we cared about, we could process this. Now, while we have this open, let's look at this a little bit. Let's look at the shutter here, if I can actuate that. There. And we see the film transport working over here. So that's good. It generally looks pretty clean. I don't see light seal material along these door edges, and looks pretty good. I mean, the foam down in here in this corner, it doesn't feel sticky to me, so that's good. And the foam over here that your cartridge sits against by the window so you can see through, that feels good yet too, so that's good. The door closes properly, and it assumes we've loaded another roll of film when we close the door, so it advances it a little bit. Other cosmetic issues, the camera looks pretty good. As noted, we can reverse the hood for storage and screw the filter back into the front of the lens. Get that thread started just right. There we go. And the Minolta cap. It comes with a pretty nice adjustable Minolta Maxxum strap. Pretty heavy duty. Nice buckles. And all in all, pretty good example of the Minolta Maxxum 7000 35mm film SLR camera.